Awesome. Oh man, should have a great group of folks today. We had, I think like over like 180 or something people register. So clearly a topic that is resonating with folks, all this storytelling. And still madly admitting people. So just hold or hang in there with me for just one more minute, y'all. And a couple minutes in, it should die down. I'm super excited to get everyone from Colorado, Pittsburgh, San Jose, Berlin. Oh my God, Sally. I am the biggest fan ever of Berlin. I know that's I mean, it's not a hard place to love, so it's not super original, but absolutely love it there. Jealous. Although, not to talk about the weather because that's boring, but we're getting one of our like 12 days of spectacular weather in New York right now, and I'm not mad about it. All right. Oh my gosh, we just keep admitting people like crazy. This is the one thing about having the lower security on the front end so that you guys can join really easily onto the Zoom call. I have to manually admit everyone, so trade-offs, but this is definitely less chaotic than having a bunch of people emailing me saying that they can't get in without a code. Anyway, it seems that we're going pretty smoothly here. All right, I am going to kick us off because I think, people are, better be here on time. All right. So hey everyone, I'm so happy to make your acquaintance. I think we've got a lot of past, present, and potentially future clients online here. So hey guys, so happy to have your support and have your wisdom shared here. This is obviously a topic that's really near and dear to many of our hearts right now. The session's called You Are the Product, Designing Your Career Narrative. And just a quick note, some things that you're going to need today. Keep it pretty light, okay? But you're going to need just a pad and paper or a notes file. If you're like me, I madly write in my Apple Notes. It's like my favorite app ever. And your work calendar. So you're not going to be sharing it with anybody, don't worry. So you don't need to anonymize it or whatever. But we will be taking a look at, as one of our exercises today, we're going to be taking a peek at that work calendar and using it as a tool, a little bit of an insight engine for us. All right, just going to admit these last folks. All right, so if you have not joined one of my workshops yet, or this is your first one, welcome. I'm so happy to meet you and be interacting with you. I am Becca Camp. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization for women accelerating their careers called Fearless Femmes. And I say that I help women accelerate their career and their emotional freedom, which might sound a little funny, but let me explain. So this is something that's really important to me. Why do I say emotional freedom? So my work centers around the emotional and physiological underpinnings of confidence, influence, and creativity. And we use these things as an engine in service of helping folks in products mostly get promoted, find new awesome roles, and land their first consulting or coaching clients. I state this aspect of emotional freedom, which is kind of like squishy and touchy-feely, but also very authentic to me. Because if I helped you get all those tangible goals and you are miserable, that wouldn't be much of a victory, right? And I was really motivated to share this particular workshop with you guys. This is a brand new one. I haven't done a live workshop for the public in a while. Because obviously, if you're exploring new roles, which many of us are, especially in this climate of layoffs, there's a zillion important reasons to hone your story. You're going to be in interviews, you're going to be networking, people are going to be asking you what you do, and it might be time for a refresh, right? But that's not the only reason that I chose this topic for right now. In all my years of coaching, this is the first time that I've witnessed a very particular phenomenon, like a certain experience that I myself had many years ago, which I can only classify as, I guess, a mass awakening. This is happening especially among femmes and women in product, where folks are coming to realize that they don't actually want to do this job this way anymore. Even if they've been really successful at it, they've been doing it for a long time, they've felt really secure, and this is their career path. something has shifted, right? They've really reevaluated what's important to them. And it's pretty, it can be a little bit of a mindfuck, to pardon my French, for folks, especially for high achieving women who can, in many cases, including my own, it turns into a bit of an existential crisis. So if that's you, you are in great company here. I can relate. Lots of people here, I'm sure, can relate. And this is something that I've just been talking about openly more and more because it resonates with so many people. So if that's you, welcome. Also, if you really are just like, yeah, I want to get this next job, this is the next, this is the path for me, for now at least, you will get a ton out of this workshop as well. It is for both of these categories of people. Given how close this issue is to my heart, I have over the last 18 months shifted my primary focus towards guiding folks into a story, not of what job title they want, but rather a story of who you're becoming. And so I named this workshop, You Are the Product, because you can get paid to be you. We can kind of divorce ourselves a bit from this question of, do I stay in product or do I leave, this big binary, right? And so whether the answer ends up looking like you striking out on your own, like I did, like many of my clients are, or getting a role custom made for you at a company, like those details are actually pretty flexible. But I named this session, You Are the Product, not as a trite cliche, but really meaning exactly that. There is nothing like you, and you're worth a hell of a lot. Your story is going to be the vehicle of by like screaming it, shouting it from the rooftops, you're going to be able to attract those roles that really, really do fit you just perfectly. I'm going to admit just the last folks trickling in here. All right. Hey everyone, by the way, we've got our chat fired up. I'm going to be talking to you a lot today because I don't like talking at people. Let's see, where did I need to start here? All right, yes. So the promises for today. Number one, you'll get more if you participate. That is always true with all of my workshops. Obviously, don't share anything you're uncomfortable sharing. It's completely up to you. But the more you interact with me, the more you engage in the chat, even if it's through direct messages just to me, you'll get the maximum amount out of this. The folks who raise their hand, who volunteer, who come into the love seat when I offer things like the wordsmithing we're going to do today, it can be actually life-changing, not to toot my own horn, but truly what we create here can be incredibly, incredibly transformational. Number two, you'll get an authentic style. So you'll notice already, I swear moderately, so you've been warned. Put on headphones maybe if you've got kids around. And I do have an authentic style. I talk really fast. I laugh a lot. I value fun very deeply and not in kind of like a cheesy fake way, like genuinely. I really get an enormous amount of pleasure being here with you guys. So hopefully that will come through and you'll take some of that with you. Number three, despite the fact that most of you probably think that imposter syndrome is the thing that is killing your story, you choke, you feel like you're lying, you feel like you don't even know what to say, or like your story isn't that impressive. Imposter syndrome is not actually the problem, and we're not going to talk too much about it. It's a bit of a red herring, and we'll talk why that is, or talk about why that is when we get to that point. But basically, I'm tired of people taking a symptom of systemic oppression and making it women's problem to solve as an individual. So I am taking a firm stance against that, and we'll talk about all the things that we're going to do instead of trying to work on our imposter syndrome with our story. All right, and number four. Basically, this is not one of those like, oh, I'm gonna pitch you on my program, and then if you sign up or something, you'll actually get the value from this workshop. Indeed, right now, starting now, I'm going to give away absolutely as much as I can, everything I know within 90 minutes, and this is a 90-minute session, by the way. And if you want more help, I will tell you how you can get it at the end. So don't worry if you are like wanting more, if you realize this is the exact kind of support you need, you will get an invitation to follow up afterwards. But also, if not, yeah, you don't need to. Okay, any questions so far? All right, cool. I'm just muting everybody just to keep it clean in here. All right. Fabulous. If you've got any questions. Oh, yes. Thank you, Dia. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. Apologies if I'm not. But this article was a massive like a revelation for me years ago when it first came out, or I guess only 2 years ago. Geez. Stop telling women they have imposter syndrome. I think it was Reshma Saujani who posted this, and she has become an absolute hero of mine. I follow all of her work. She's such an icon as far as I'm as I consider. Follow her on Instagram. She talks a ton about moms in the workplace and what justice really looks like, in the environments that we operate in and have influence in. So, huge fan. Hell yeah.
And yes, you did say my name right. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think that the two people who wrote this are, I don't know if they posted this before or after Reshma did that commencement speech, but it was awesome. Like they also have their own startups where they're kind of trying to work on stuff as well.
That's right. Same topic, different authors. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, all three of them have fantastic activist and they're really important leaders for the moment that we're in right now. So hell yes. Thank you for raising that, Dia. All right. And again, guys, really encourage you to interrupt me. I can absolutely talk a blue streak. So just raise your hand or feel free to interrupt me. I will not get mad. I absolutely love interacting with all of you here. Okay. Sorry, just admitting a few more folks. Okay, so our agenda for today, by the way, I said at the very beginning, grab a pen and paper and have your work calendar just ready to reference for yourself individually. We're going to be using it as a tool. Those are the only things that you need to be ready for all our work today. So our agenda, just a quick preview, we're going to be starting with fixing the 3 biggest mistakes you are making with your storytelling. I've been at this long enough that there are just a very reliable set of 3, and we'll talk about both what the mistake is and exactly the antidote. We're then going to, in a very proactive workshop-y way, author your, what we call in the Fearless Femmes program, your stitch. This is your story plus pitch. Get it? Stitch. And so you'll get all of this brainstorming and kind of all of this kind of seeding the ground for you to get some ideas and get some words ready to go, so that when we spend that 3 minutes just kind of rapid fire drafting this stitch, it should be pretty quick and you should have a bunch of content ready to go. And that first draft is your MVP if you are the product. So good stuff. We'll then have an opportunity to wordsmith live. Often what I find is that folks, kind of like when you're writing your resume, you kind of you eke out a draft, but then you have someone else look at it and it just makes the world of difference. And yet when you're reviewing somebody else's resume, it's completely obvious what they need to change. I find that it just is a great use of time to either volunteer. Highly recommend that you volunteer for the wordsmithing live here with an audience, or if you're just observing, just gather the notes and the kind of the adjustments that we make. You'll be able to then apply it to your own as well. So that's what I mean by wordsmithing. We'll be taking the story draft that you create in this workshop today, and then you'll have me available to workshop it with you. And we'll do as many of those as we have time for. Also, if we do have time at the very end, we might even practice, and I'll break you out into breakout sessions. If that's something you are interested in, you can stick around. If not, you can bounce, no problem. Just a heads up that we'll do that as much as we have time for. Fabulous. I also recommend always be community building. This is a big value of mine, and truly in the effort to find a new role or opportunity or clients, whatever it is your goal is right now. Your community is the engine that is going to provide so much more and give so much more than you could ever take from it. Or sorry, that will give you more than, you know what I mean. You're going to reap a ton of benefits from community building here, especially because all of you are completely amazing. I know this to be a fact. And so if you notice someone saying something in the comments that you really resonate with, maybe at the end, I'll have a call to post our LinkedIn profiles so that everyone can kind of just add each other and stay connected. If you enjoyed it and if you feel called to. All right, enough of that. The intro is done. We're getting into it. So open question, again, fire up this chat. What makes storytelling hard for you? I assume that if you were just crushing it and felt totally in flow and at ease in every single opportunity that you had to kind of talk about your story, you wouldn't be here. So Evelyn is talking about rambling, flattening of complexity, so simplification, taking up space or bragging, making it crisp, that's a good one. Taking everything you've done in your career and turning it into a linear narrative. This is probably the big theme behind almost everyone's issue here. Having a non-traditional path, making sure you can prove your value. Oh, it feels final. That's interesting, Gwen. I want to dig more into that if we can. Answering the question in an interview, I assume the question being like, tell me about yourself, or what do you do, right? Standing out, narrowing focus, underselling. Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for, guys. Hopefully also you're seeing how common your issue is, right? So again, there's a real big benefit just by virtue of being in community here. Everyone is struggling with similar themes. All right, beautiful. And I noted all of these. If I completely don't get to your particular problem in this workshop today, feel free to either tack it on at the end when I ask for, want to give an opportunity to tie up loose ends, or of course, email me. All right, so good stuff. We're all in the same boat here, and a lot of this is going to get addressed today. So let's talk about the three major mistakes. We'll start with the first one. The first mistake that folks make is trying. Obviously, this is somewhat unconscious, but in practice, you try to blend in rather than trying to stand out. And so this happens in a bunch of different ways that we'll get into, but we can also kind of appreciate why this is a thing that happens, right? It's because pretty consistently, we are punished for being the tall poppy or whatever. Right? We're criticized for being loud. We're criticized for being aggressive. We're chastised, shamed, made fun of. This is not, you're not imagining it, right? Like women and especially women of color and every intersection kind of within that experiences a different treatment when we stand out. Right. So it is a very natural, actually adaptive response to try to blend in. Right? That is something that we've been conditioned to do for our actual literal survival in this world. So it's a big deal to push ourselves to actually stand out, knowing that that's our destiny, right? Like you wouldn't be here if it weren't. And so a couple ways that this ends up happening in practice. One is you ramble in interviews, right? So you kind of you've got all these lines that you've been practicing, and really like they don't really get at the heart of what it is that you're trying to communicate. Like I don't know, something about like the soul of your story is missing. And it's because we're focusing on all the words that will make us sound like the most quote unquote impressive person, right? Rather than to be maximally ourselves, we're trying to be maximally what we think the other person wants us to be, which is an inherently generic goal. Right. So that's all the ways that we try to blend in. A lot of the verbiage we use is generic, vague, buzzwordy. And again, most of the stuff is accidental, right? Obviously, we don't want to use buzzwords ever. We're all way cooler than that, but it happens. So the fix for this, oops, where did my tab go? The fix for this, and I want to encourage everyone. I've been doing this particular question in my group sessions lately, and it's been like mind blowing. I mean, just how deep and wonderful and beautiful this inquiry is for folks. I want you to share in the chat, if you want, the thing that you're trying so hard to hide. And this is a slightly different question than like, what's your superpower? Because like, I don't know, like being super organized is like it's not the superpower that I'm really trying to draw out of you right now, right? If to buy you a little bit more time to think about it, my thing I spent my whole life basically trying to hide until maybe a decade ago was how smart I was. Oh my God, did I just call myself smart? Oh my God, like how dare she, right? It was also the fact that I'm lazy. Like I don't like working hard, guys. Oh, how dare I? Right. Another one was the fact that emotions hit me like a freight train. I don't know if I'm probably not the only one here, but I thought I was truly and honestly alone in my experience of feeling like a full body like spasm when I had a feeling. Right. I mean, I at the time didn't know about the connection between my physiology and my emotions. Now, of course, this is part of what I teach. It's absolutely core to what I teach. But I thought it was a disability for the longest time. And it was. I mean, I let it be a disability because it allowed me to shut down or be reactive or just otherwise not my best self in situations where I had big feelings. No one knows you're an introvert. Beautiful. Bureaucracy is draining. Oh, another one. Another how dare I? Guys, I am a terrible team player. The fucking worst. I'm an only child, like all the way through. Like I'm mostly in recovery, but like barely. I am the worst person to collaborate with. So it makes a lot of sense that I would build a solopreneur endeavor for myself. It makes me so happy to do. It's not something that I feel the need to fix, at least not today. I love to use humor in your work. Oh, Evelyn, I love this quality of irreverence, right? It's something that's like, I don't know, being able to hold lightly these things that people just turn into life or death. And I know each of you here has had moments where you really think that your software is a life or death situation. And I know that all of you don't actually believe that shit, right? It's probably one of the things that you find really draining and frustrating about your job, is because you know that there are more important things out there. Why does it get you so much, right? Caring too much is another thing that a lot of folks in my programs have called out as a thing that is, their flaw that's actually completely amazing. Caring a lot allows you to tune into people and effectively read their minds. It's wild. Too sensitive, annoyed by other people. Hopefully I'm like preaching to the choir here, it sounds like. Too passionate. You want to solve problems and not worry about business impact. That's a huge one. That's, pretty much for everyone striking out on their own who cares about impact. We see money and impact being in conflict. Not actually true, it turns out. But it's a big spiritual, expansion to kind of recognize that those two don't have to be in conflict. It's a big deal. So beautiful, beautiful stuff here, guys. So again, I don't need to vary the lead here. These things are your superpowers. They are. They're the things that you've been going out of your way to hide, doing an immense amount of acrobatics to try to, again, blend in rather than owning this amazing, deep, soulful, sometimes razor sharp part of your personality. And so it's no wonder that you dissociate, that you zone out, tune out, just go into autopilot a bit when you're telling your story. It's like this part of you that this spark at the heart of your story is being kind of like shoved to the side. So it's no wonder that you wouldn't come alive telling your story. So another part of this fix, right? So again, when we get into this mode where we're trying to hide as kind of as the main objective, right? Rather than sharing as the main objective, that's when we kind of start to ramble. It's when we start to get less precise about what we do. So the buzzwords and the vague stuff comes in. Our ability to be concise goes away. We just kind of we hope that more words will hide the fact that we don't really have conviction in what we're saying. And then, of course, by extension, we lose some of the accuracy about what it is that we're really good at and what we want to be doing and how we're going to just blow the company's mind with our skill set, right? We lose some of that accuracy. And so the fix, again, I'm kind of honing in on the exercise here. Your goal, write this down, is to paint a picture of exactly what you are going to do to create value for this organization or for this opportunity, for the client, the customer, whatever it is, so that they can literally visualize you in there solving their problem or saving their ass, right? And so we'll bring this into even more concrete terms here. When you're telling your story, don't worry about writing all of this down. We will revisit this later. I'll show you this again when we're drafting our stitch. The words that I hear a lot when people are kind of vaguely kind of grasping to tell their story while trying to hide, a lot of connection, collaboration, strategy, communication. Execution is a huge one. That's the one that as doers we hide behind when we are trying to shrink ourselves down as strategic influencers. And so we talk about how good we are at getting shit done. All of these words to avoid are things worth noting, and we will be coming back to this when we actually draft your story. What we want to be saying instead, and again, there's not a one-to-one perfect translation here where instead of connection, you should be saying this other word. It really does depend on what story you're telling and then, again, what you're trying to highlight. But again, that's why we're going to wordsmith and workshop together so that we can just do some of that translation live. But some words to keep in your archive, your little library in your back pocket: visual storytelling, design thinking, qual or quant research or analysis, Strategic planning best practices. So again, like you're not just strategic, you are guiding the company through a protocol of strategic planning. There's a process by which you do this to ensure that the teams are working on the right things, right? Hiring and retaining teams, resolving conflicts, creatively avoiding trade-offs, P&L management, customer relationships. You'll notice that like you can literally see a person, just a random person, you can see a person doing each of these things in your mind. It's very, very detailed, right? So sorry, just checking comments to see if I missed anything here. And if I do miss your comment, I'm getting a lot today. So so please feel free to repeat yourself if I miss you. And oh, Victoria, okay, you can learn basically anything. So specific jobs are hard to choose. Awesome. We will be dealing with that and talking about mistake number 2. So I just want everyone to kind of hone into this and kind of let it in. Again, we're going to be revisiting these lists when we start authoring our stitch. But the thing about these words to avoid is that they get to this problem of, or they enter us into the realm of this problem of blending in rather than standing out. And like, here's the reality, guys. They're kind of table stakes. Like if you're a product or tech leader or a consultant, like execution and communication, like if you're not doing that, what are you doing, right? And so don't freak out, right? This doesn't mean that you aren't skilled or that your skills are worthless. Like absolutely, these are insanely, insanely important things, but they aren't the things that make you stand out, right? So again, all of these things are essential. They, I say that they're table stakes. I think we all know they're not, which is really annoying. But like we go lots of places where you'd think that people know how to communicate and they don't, and they're like, what's going on? But I really want you to just remember these words are not the words that make you stand out. And the rule of thumb here is that if it is important, like collaboration, like execution, but vague, like those words, it's usually because you're going to need to show that strength rather than tell that strength. So again, we'll get into this when we talk about the storytelling. What I mean by this specifically is like for collaboration, for example, we're not going to, I mean, maybe we'll say the word collaboration, maybe not, but we're going to tell a story of how you facilitated amazing levels of collaboration towards a specific result. So again, we're showing the collaboration skill rather than just saying, yeah, I'm a great collaborator, because it's like, it just doesn't land. That's the truth. All right, that's mistake number 1 and fix number 1. Any questions so far? Anything that I didn't get to? Feeling lost? Take my sip of my awkward silence. Bubbly water.
Can I talk rather than write?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm right now I'm an executive director of human resources at a community college in Massachusetts. But the I shouldn't say but, I hate when people do that. The president at the time that I was hired is a very strategic thinker. We're very different in our approach. I like humor, I like levity, all the things. But my answers, when I used storytelling as an example, did not seem to land with her, because she was like, just the facts, give me the things, give me the data, give me the whatever. And so it's like, that's boring to me, and I need the rest. And I don't need, I don't need the spreadsheet. I just want the bottom line. And she wanted the spreadsheet. So we had been at odds since I started. Luckily, she retired, and there's somebody else that I connect better with. But when you're going into an interview or whatever, you don't know who you're connecting with. So how do we use this rule of thumb and still land, especially if it's something that you really want?
Yeah. So this is like you said, I mean, this is where the answer is that it's just not clean cut, right? It's not clear cut, rather. You don't have the maximum amount of information going into an interview. That does mean that interviews are going to be a higher false negative rate, right? Where someone gets the wrong impression about you. And that's just, I mean, again, I'll talk about the broader strategy of job hunting that we use in Fearless Femmes that basically doesn't try to fight or hack that reality. Like, again, there's a bunch of ways that you can try to minimize that uncertainty. You can do some research about the person that you're talking to, do some diligence about who, like, like literally who they are, what their goals are, who they know in your social network. Like, how are you connected? What can you infer about their personality based on your connections? Again, this is where all of our feminine skills that have been so undervalued come in massive service of situations like this. But ultimately, anytime that we are walking in blind to a situation where we truly have almost no information about what the other person values or cares about, it's going to be a much higher variance and success rate for the interview. So that might sound like wait, so I'm just like shit out of luck. And the answer is no, you're not shit out of luck. We just use a different strategy. We use a strategy that enables us to have higher visibility. So getting warm referrals, getting folks introducing you, telling you about the people at the organization. Like, oh my God, yeah, girl, they love spreadsheets at this org. So like, I know that's not your main thing, but like just have one ready, right? See if you can get that intel leading up to it. Because I can tell you all of the white bros in tech that are just sailing through interviews have gotten all that information like delivered, signed, and sealed to them, but leading up to the interviews. Most people who are successful in interviews are not flying blind, because again, like that would be crazy. How like it's almost like, what are they, magic? The answer is no. they just are not flying blind. So you're not crazy. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Hopefully that gets at it. Yeah. Again, like I'm not going to mince words about it. Like there are other factors, like, yeah, if someone really is like just not jive with your communication style at all, it's kind of like dating someone who's incompatible with you. Like you can make it work if it's really good, like if there's lots of other good stuff, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard work to kind of like find that connection. So,
It's funny you use that, because that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
A very strange relationship where you really want to go, but you kind of want to stay.
Yeah. And Allison, you nailed it, girl. This is social engineering. And if we can like one of our this again is like really like harnessing feminine energy. Again, this is not so much like female energy, but like the feminine of like really seeing through boundaries and structures and like being very receptive and perceptive, like that kind of sort of feminine that exists in all humans. Like we've been shamed out of using it, but oh my God, is it a superpower? And truly, like when I realized that, the queen of fucking everything, Becca, who walked through a party just owning everything, could exist in the work realm also, that was when everything changed for me. And that is, if I have one wish for everyone here, is that they can experience that kind of like identity merging and that empowerment that comes with it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So, okay, let's see, AJ, in FANG companies, the people who you interview with are not the people you work with. So let's see. So even if you don't jive with the interview, you could get along really well with the hiring manager. So yes, this is the case. I do think, though, that often at FANG companies, to kind of counter this, you'll do a rotation. Like you'll interview with multiple teams once you've been hired on, and then have a chance to kind of have a mutual sense of fit based on the personalities and sort of again, like the cohesion and chemistry with the team. So I think that's how they navigate that. But is that not something that you had the opportunity to do, AJ?
I was weeded out before I had the opportunity to do that, because the person, my first round interviewer was someone that I just, we didn't have the same level of energy. We just didn't vibe. But the hiring manager and the team and everyone I spoke to before that was great. And we really did, coalesce well. Mm-hmm. But it was unfortunate because, then the one person kind of fit for the team.
Yeah. So this is where, again, the bigger the company that you go to, the less person, there's just kind of like certain laws of physics here, right? There is like a reality where, again, is when you're the product, when your shine and magic is the thing that you're trying to like have opportunities to deliver to people as you're getting into the job, the more dehumanized, the more faceless, the more kind of automated the process is, the less opportunity you're going to have to deliver that, right? And it's no fault of your own. It's just the strategy that's like a bad fit, right? So again, this is where I don't coach folks on how to get a job at FANG at all costs, Because often if you're being weeded out, again, I wouldn't say this as a generalization, but it's something I've seen happen before in the past, is when you're being weeded out, it's because like there's just a little bit of a culty mindset about like what elite, and it makes me a little uncomfortable because like straight up, this is the actual vocabulary they use. It's like kind of, you know, as a person who cares about social justice and equity and all of that stuff, it's not a good look, really. But there's like a certain language you speak and a certain way you think, and they really screen for that. I would be fucking miserable at a company like that. It's just, like, again, whether, I don't know it's not anyone's fault, but like, I am just not the kind of person that is valued at that organization. And if you're getting screened out, it might just be a signal that like, actually you would be miserable there. More often than not, rejections are actually redirections that happen because it just wouldn't be a happy fit. Right. It's kind of like dating on the assumption that like anytime you don't get married, it was a colossal failure. Like that's totally not, no, you're like, you're kind of figuring out what you want and connecting with people and learning about yourself. And then, you know, yeah, you do eventually find the right thing that is a fit for you. And yeah, of course, yeah, maybe you get married. But yeah, we really don't want to be we want to be getting to know fast. We'll be getting to that in our next mistake. Did it at least get a little bit at your question, AJ? I don't want to tell you that like you got rejected because you're not,
sorry, I was trying to find the mute button.
Yeah, all good.
No, that speaks to a lot. And also, you know, when the company is so big and sprawling, it does depend on the team and the department, and it just can become very variable.
Yeah, again, it's a lot of false negatives that they get exposed to, and so do you. Right. So again, it's not that this is even like evidence that you are not cut out for that. Although, you know, me speaking personally about myself, I can be like, yep, no, definitely not cut out for that. Thank God. But that's kind of, again, something to check in with yourself about. And then also kind of looking at the realities of the strategy, which is that you get a lot of false negatives about fit with that process. And sometimes that favors people with a certain makeup, both genetic and otherwise, you know, for honestly, probably more often than not at the detriment of the company. So, yeah, so not amazing news, but I didn't want to sugarcoat either. Okay. So, again, if I skipped you or didn't get to your question, please feel free to email me. I am here for you. On to mistake number 2. So often, and this is actually something that I've corrected from through my years of coaching my clients on this. We're spending a lot of time looking back and taking the story that you have and trying to like organize it and manufacture it and shoehorn it into this linear story. So all of our emphasis, all of our kind of like energetic direction is backwards. Obvious in hindsight, but really what we want to be doing is eyes forward, 100%, right? And in many ways, what we want, like what our vision for how we want to spend our time in the future, it just answers the question about the stories that we cherry picked from the past, right? What? So actually, I've very recently revised a lot of my coaching materials to really start with this question of how do you want to spend your time? And so that is the fix. Look at your current calendar. I literally, I told you guys to get your work calendar ready. Pull it up. I'll give you a minute. And I'm actually curious to hear in the chat, what's a meeting that you're looking forward to? God willing that you have one that you look forward to. Again, this is one of the amazing things about working for myself is that I look forward to all of them. Design brainstorm, one-on-ones, gorgeous. Bi-weekly accountability, strategy brainstorming, pinball tournaments. Hell yeah, dude. I can tell you that I had this big kind of breakdown, I guess maybe breakdown, dramatic, but it was this moment of revelation, of like truth hitting me, where I was so confused about what to do to build my business, this business that I have today. And I just remember in this like fit of like, table flipping, if you're like, I just want to sit on my floor and drink wine and talk about feelings. And maybe if there's any New Yorkers, past clients in the crowd, some of you may have come to that first session that was the like origin story of my group program. That was literally in my apartment in Manhattan, drinking wine, talking about feelings. That was the first prototype of my group programs back in 2018. So if you were there, shout out. That was a real moment. How much we enjoy our life is just basically directly correlated to how much pleasure we're getting from how we spend our time. That's it. Whether you enjoy your job, your life, anything. If you don't enjoy what's on your calendar, you're gonna have a bad time. Most of what's on your calendar. Again, I don't know, like I'm probably at like 80-90% things that I really, really like. It's plenty enough that to make the other 10-20% just like coast right by, right? So take this is like possibly the most important indicator that you have looking forward into your future when you're telling the story of what you're going to be doing next, of who you're becoming. Again, how is who you're becoming spending her time or their time? So this is an actual calendar that I kind of pulled from my clients and put it on my own calendar. My one-on-ones, I hid the names of the people who are my clients, obviously. But here is a great example of a product leader calendar. Does this look anything like your calendar? No meeting Monday. Oh, game changer. Sprint retro, sprint planning's there. That's kind of maybe what you do in terms of like the sprint operations, but you know, more or less you let your engineering manager or scrum master kind of lead the charge. Product hours, you're at least 2 hours of deep thinking. And one critical thing I want you looking at with your calendar, and I know you all know this, but this is just a hygiene reminder. Any time block that you have that's less than an hour, if you're anticipating trying to get some like deeper work done, you're going to be doing an absolutely piss poor job at whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But again, you know this. This is like, I mean, every Atlantic article ever has reminded us of this. This is just one more reminder. Calendar hygiene is a massive, massive step forward in your sense of freedom in your career. Again, this is about emotional freedom, your sense of well-being and joy and pleasure and excitement and you know, your ability to be creative, right? So really, really important here. If you're still like, ew, I do not want a calendar that has anything to do with the Scrum meetings, then you might be more like me. And so I'm going to show you my calendar, my literal calendar. This is my literal calendar for this week. Oops, hang on. Let me stop share and get the right calendar up for you. There we go. Boom. So I'm like, again, I'm like only child syndrome to the max. I look at a calendar, even one that I have designed for myself, and I'm like, don't tell me what to do. Am I the only one? Yeah, okay. Those autonomy wounds. It's really good to know that you have them. If you do. And you'll notice I've got a big block of unscheduled time and free time throughout the week. I normally have this time free for meetings, but I was going to see my orthopedic surgeon on Tuesday. So again, normally, if possible, if there's something that I need to rearrange, or if I don't feel like doing admin yesterday at 1, I just rearrange it, right? I maintain my commitment to getting it done during the week, but it's like I feel called to writing instead. Awesome. Guess what? I get to do whatever I want. If that is more your speed, then operating outside of a corporate environment may be something that I want to, well, certainly maybe something that you might be interested in. And I want to empower you to consider. Might be really, really scary. Again, there's a lot we get out of the stability of a structured schedule in terms of a sort of sense of, I don't know, an illusion of safety, but you know, like we'll take it for what it's worth. But there might come a time where it just makes you miserable the way that it did me. And it was just a non-starter anymore. So any of these calendars can be yours. Let's see, catching up on chat. Yeah. Oh my God. Scheduling time to eat. So important, especially if you, I make my, and I will make my calendar available to you guys if you're interested in learning more about the programs later. Like my calendar can look like Swiss cheese if I let it. So again, these blocks free for meetings are the availability that you see on my Calendly, right? So I have my Calendly set up to recognize that as the available slots. So again, this is what my natural rhythm looks and feels like. It changes between spring, fall, and summer, winter, slow way down in summer, winter. So again, like I've really learned these natural rhythms for myself to make my work well, better for my body. Again, all of this should be part of your vision and shall be part of your vision for who you're becoming and how you want to work. Because again, how you want to work does a lot of the heavy lifting for you of eliminating the places where you don't want to work or have no business working, right? Or who have no business employing you, right? So really, really important thing about calendaring here, really holding on to this question of how do I want to spend my time? And so obviously you might notice that your calendar activities, let me share my screen again. Your calendar activities probably line up pretty well with, oops, where did my, oh my gosh. Sorry guys, hang tight. I just somehow lost my PowerPoint presentation. One sec. There we go. There we go. All right, pardon my pause there. So a lot of this will line up your favorite things that you look forward to with the words to use in your stitch. So I really want you writing down the meeting that you look forward to. Those are the activities that we want to be including when you say, here's my strengths, here's what I love doing. This is my story of how I want to operate in this opportunity for you, with you, whatever, right? When you're telling that story. Also, another good thing to check out. This is this is a Medium post. I'm just blanking on the author because that's where I am on the ADHD spectrum. Who has this tool called the PM Daisy. So it's targeted towards product leaders, obviously, but you can do this with any role, kind of breaking out the petals, like the daisy petals of the different work streams within the role, and mapping out for one opportunity that you've got versus another. Like, what are the demands of this? And then, of course, what is my ideal daisy makeup, right? So I think her coding here is that she goes broad on partnerships, but really deep on people ops. She spends a lot of time on both. She does not spend much on PM artifacts, for example. Right. So again, there's a whole like color coding for this. But basically, if you can imagine that this is your unique snowflake, or we call it in FEMS, the shape of your puzzle piece. There's a role out there that meets your puzzle piece. And it's astounding to me that in job interviews, they don't have a daisy of the role and then make you bring a daisy so that you can overlap them. Because again, whether you're a director or a VP or an individual contributor or a project manager or a program manager or a product manager, like from company to company, it's completely different. Like this is, again, we're getting specific early is going to change the game in terms of your ability to draw in this needle out of the haystack. So any questions about this really quick? So again, calendar, know what you want to do, have your sense of like how you want to be spending your time. The visual representations about this can be the daisy and certainly should be your calendar. And again, part of your story is how you want to be spending your time. All right, let me check the chat real quick. Mistake number 2 was, what did I say? Focusing too much on the past, right? Trying to like wordsmith and kind of like story tell what you've done rather than talking about what you want to do. Cool. So this is really, these 2 visual tools are how you're going to conceptualize what you want to do. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Shravani, I'm like, I'm over the moon that resume templates have that involved. It's like, it's awesome. Like it's astounding to me that it's not just absolutely default. All right. So on to mistake number 3. And I alluded to this a little bit at the beginning. This is a tender topic, one that obviously, like, having lived it and come out the other side, I am always thrilled to hear when people are kind of towing around this realization that they don't actually want the role that they're supposed to want. So this is you. I'm holding you in all the love and hope and excitement for what lies beyond this. If you are just totally clean and clear, hell yeah, totally laser focused and feeling totally aligned on the role that you want, awesome. This might apply less to you, but follow along anyway, just in case. This was definitely me. I got fired from literally every product job that I've ever had. Every single one. And again, a lot of it was because my role in the dance was, not acting in ways that was particularly conducive to authority or graceful relationships with authority. That was my bad. But there are also lots of toxic elements as well that really made it a very difficult place for me to succeed in work. And I hear about this all the time. Again, more and more folks are coming to me saying, I don't want to do this work this way anymore. What does that mean about me? Right. So I just lost my presentation here. Where'd it go? So the fix for this is to get in touch with your vision and values. Stop worrying so much about the job title that you think you should be going for, or that, like, again, maybe you get into this loop of like, well, but I don't want to be in product. So then what title am I going for? Like, just put it on the shelf. That is not a helpful thought loop. Instead, we want to look inward, right? We want to go down a little deeper to the origin, these roots of your vision and values, and ask yourself this question: do you actually want to work for these companies? Really, really hard question to answer, honestly, when your answer has been a fervent, almost suspiciously excited yes for a really long time, right? It's a big, again, can be an existential crisis for some folks. And this is the other thing that's like really hard to hear a lot of the time, at least for me, and this is true for a lot of my clients as well. They aren't getting offers because you can smell it from a mile away that you don't actually want the job. And there's a whole bunch of actual physiological science about this. There's a bunch of woo-woo energetic science about this. Like, there's just plenty of data to indicate that this is a really important thing to consider. Your ability to connect deeply with what you're saying matters way more than the actual words themselves, right? So again, intuitively, I think we all know this. I'm just reiterating it for you. I realized that I wasn't getting offers because everyone could tell I didn't want the job. And thank God I didn't get the offer, because then I wouldn't be here today having the time of my life. So other quick note, I said I would mention imposter syndrome very, very briefly, because obviously when we're telling our story, that is something that we get, I don't know, one of the thoughts that we have is that, oh my God, I don't belong here, or I'm not qualified for this, or my story is bullshit, or, whatever. Imposter syndrome is just a symptom of anxiety, along with procrastination, along with self-criticism, along with like words freezing in your throat, along with like sweaty palms. Like, this is it's just another symptom of anxiety. It manifests as a thought, but it's coming from the same place that all anxiety comes from, which is in the body. So I would be remiss to not mention this, because this is absolutely fundamental to all of my teachings about confidence, executive presence, executive communication, storytelling. Everything has to do with your level of dysregulation. Unfuckwithable, as I like to call it, is our baseline, where you just like cannot be fucked with. Like, you are just like impossible to knock off balance, calm, cool, collected, curious. Like, you can go roll with the punches, make yourself known, advocate for what you need to advocate for, set any boundaries. Unfuckwithable. That's the baseline we want. Dysregulation comes in two forms: hyperarousal and hypoarousal. So hyper usually is a form of imposter syndrome, like a lot of those racing thoughts of I suck or whatever, is just a symptom. Hypoarousal, we see like the freeze, like saying things to kind of get people, like make the interaction end, that appease instinct, like our mind going blank. All of that stuff is just, again, physiological symptoms. And Chantel, hell yes, like, you are just like a classic textbook case of what's possible when you really focus on this hot point of leverage, right? So again, I won't spend too much time on this. It's like a whole other sermon that I have for you guys another time. But when you focus on the body and keeping that body in a calm, safe, secure place, even, by the way, in a situation where like safety isn't guaranteed. Like you might go to a job interview and get criticized. You might go there and get gaslit. Like, yeah. And you're able to stay okay, right? If something bad happens, you can handle it. That is the body we want to be bringing in, because then your thoughts, emotions, the actions that you take to get the results, they all just take care of themselves, right? If we're focusing on our thoughts, like, oh, no, I need to like tell myself a different story, tell myself that I'm awesome, you're going to be fighting your body the whole way. If you're trying to make yourself feel something different, you're going to be fighting your thoughts and your body and so on, right? So we really, really want to focus on this point of leverage, and then just everything else takes care of itself. So again, this is the number one skill for anyone who wants to practice being more embodied, really like speaking with magnetism and charisma, all of this stuff. The body is the place to focus, let me tell you. So when we're talking about really connecting deeply to what we want to be doing, right? And I've got a couple prompts for you to kind of chew on here in a minute. But this quote from Audre Lorde I thought was really beautiful. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in service of my vision, it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. And it's kind of a joke, like in Fearless Femmes, like obviously, you know, I kind of cavalierly chose the name Fearless Femmes. It's not entirely accurate. Like we really just have fear, and we've just befriended it. Like, you know, you always have anxiety or discomfort when you're on your edge, right? When you're growing. That's part of the symptoms of growing, right? But our relationship with that fear, it just matters less because we're going to be here. Obviously, we're doing what's most important, right? And yeah, Chantal, like, preach, girl. Yeah, courage is doing it scared and doing it, or doing it scared or being scared and doing it anyway. So to get in touch with this body, right? To get in touch with this body, there's a couple prompts that I really like. First, this is the question that changed my life, God, however many years ago, from my coach. What pisses you off about the world? For me, oh my God, it is the fact that so many people are walking into these work environments and being made to feel like they're doing shitty work when actually it's the complete emotional stuntedness of the entire leadership team that trickles down into the DNA of the entire organization, poisoning every conversation and collaboration opportunity where no one feels psychologically safe and no one can be creative. Like, that's when I realized what I need to be doing on this planet, right? I lost my mind when somebody just asked me that question. So just get after it, folks. Like, just like, again, see if you can find the words. Like I have chills right now, right? That's how embodied this passion is for me. And again, if you're super burned out or super exhausted, it might be hard to conjure this, but let me tell you, rage is a super underutilized emotion, especially for women. So even if you're really exhausted, again, tread carefully, be gentle with yourself, but rage can be a really useful avenue into lighting that spark again. Oh, there's my hair. All right. The other one being maybe a more chill topic for those of you who are more amenable to that. What topic lights you up lately? And for me, my gateway drug into everything that I teach now about the physiology of emotions and success and influence and confidence really had to do with it started with the physiology of hearing and how, like, again, how something intangible becomes tangible in our body as a signal and then becomes perceived. So anyway, I learned about this in college in a physical anthropology class and recognized that, like, I could talk about it all fucking day. Why wasn't I focusing more of my time on this, on things having to do with physiology, right? So those are all really, really useful points. Okay, so just a quick summation. In Femmes, we call this the glitter, that feeling of like, literally, it's like a sparkly feeling that's totally unself-conscious, like a lit up feeling you get when you're talking about something you're really interested or passionate in. Anxiety, it's just like, what? Anxious about what? Sorry, I'm busy talking. You know? So again, we really want to be channeling that body, whatever it looks like for you. Obviously, mine's a very extroverted version, but it's going to feel like glitter to you. Right. So again, there's those topics. They might be kind of hidden if you're really sick and fed up with work right now. Channel or notice and consider the conversations that you're having with your friends about things that you are really excited about. Things that just you get totally unself-conscious. You just get lost in excitement about what you're talking about. Right. It could be like a new recipe or whatever. So that's what we're going for. What you say is less important than how you say it. Any questions? We'll put it all together. So just to grab all the notes that you've taken so far.
Sorry, Becca.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I saw a question someone asked that I think is a great question. So I'm just gonna point it out
please.
here.
Highlight.
Should I just read it out or what
Oh,
do you?
sure. Yeah. I'm not sure where it is, so go for it.
Okay, what if I'm interested in a place that doesn't align with my values but meets other criteria, in parentheses, growth/comp/WLB, depending on the life stage I'm in?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if comp and growth are your core values, then it sounds in total alignment. Right? Unless those aren't your core values. And if the core values are things like compassion, justice, creativity, fun, flexibility, balance, and that's girl, there are so many ways to make money and grow that don't sacrifice those values. Like, I call shenanigans. Anyone, whoever asked the question, feel free to respond, or DF also feel free to respond.
Can I ask a separate question, Becca? I'm
Go for it.
curious if you can, yeah, I'm wondering if you can talk about, I really am intrigued by this first one of leading with your unique superpower, but a lot of us listed off superpowers that are often cast in a sort of negative valence. So I'm wondering if you can example us up with something like leading with a superpower. For example, you're saying that you're lazy, which is like, there's a flip side to that, but how did you spin that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll come up with a couple examples. I'll very briefly of my own, but then I think it'll be more fun to workshop it when we do our wordsmithing. So we can do a quickie version of that right now. Basically, the hypersensitivity, for example. Often, and this is just, again, something intuitive that I'll just say it out loud or directly. Often, like in a somewhat emotionally stunted culture, the way that our work culture is, coming in and saying, yeah, I'm not emotionally stunted like you, predictably doesn't land that well. And so it falls into the category of the things that don't land that we want to show rather than tell. So rather than saying, I have empathy like a wizard, we want to tell a story where that superpower was used to get supernatural results, right? So it could be a conflict resolution. It could be a, a time where you like mind melded with the CEO and were able to persuade them into a new way of thinking, right? Because you like attuned to their body signals and were able to like make them think, whatever the tactic was that you used, being able to be persuasive in that way that again, goes from a win-lose to a win-win is a really, really classic story of strength that you can tell. Right, that is showing rather than telling your witchcraft. Laziness, a really important one for that is like, yeah, you don't like doing extra work, so you do things really well the first time. You're really rigorous and thorough, and you find the most efficient ways to get things done. Right. So again, it's like do you want to just come out and say I'm lazy? I don't know. If your relationship with that person is such that irreverence will land well, go for it. I usually would just err on like, yeah, I really don't like doing work twice I like taking all resources and pouring them into the things that are most important and nothing that is not important. So like, here's my story of doing that. Right. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. Thanks.
Anna, I'm lazy and cut corners. So this is actually where we can kind of take the flip side of it. So I also cut corners. Talked to my husband about the last 10% of projects. It's like a source of serious convention. Sarah knows my husband. She knows how this goes. So yeah, it's just, God, I'm just never going to do it. And so this is a really awesome part of your story that I actually really like and have as part of my template for about a personal user manual, right? Which again is another thing that I think is absolutely bonkers. That we don't just like submit instead of a resume, right? What's our personal user manual? Because I just don't I will never give enough of a shit, you guys, to learn how to knock out the last 10% of a project. Never, never, never. Everyone should know that. I want it to be at the top of my resume. If you expect me to do this, you should not hire me. Hard no. It will make both of us so miserable, like beyond miserable. It took my husband and I like 5 years to get to an okay place about it. And truly, like, I just don't want that. I don't want that in my life. And you don't want me in your life. Trust me. So this again is owning your story really powerfully. What it does mean though, is that, again, flip side of this, I don't hesitate for a second to get started on things. Like, arguably, like, I almost overcorrect on that. Like, I'll I'm totally fastest off the line. I'm really quick at working by myself. Again, that's why I work by myself. And so I just have created an environment where that is what's valuable. And I think that, like, again, if we can just say, yeah, I'm looking for a role where there's someone around who excels at the last 10% that I can work really closely with, suddenly we've got this beautiful picture of exactly what role you're looking for. Right. So yeah, even when you have a quote unquote flaw, file it either under an opportunity for growth for you, if it is, and if it's not, like my last 10% thing, like, say, yeah, no, sorry, that's just me. Like, something, take it or leave it, right? That's what we're going to have to work around. So again, really empowered, beautiful way to present your story. Warts and all, warts. I don't know, man. Like, no one's good at everything. Like, get over it. This is, again, we want to be cultivating an environment that brings out the best of us. It's just like any relationship, right? So just to recap, lead with your unique superpowers, or the showing of your unique superpower, if it's not one that we really want to tell exactly. Be precise and selective about what you share, just to weed out poor fit roles early. Know how you want to spend your time from now on in no uncertain terms, and then channel your lit up self. So quick note, what do we think the goal of telling your story is? Then we're going to get into the drafting phase. But I really want everyone to get their head around, or their mind around the mindset, whatever. Have the mindset that's going to be most supportive. What do you think the goal of telling your story is? Find your people, get what you want from the conversation. Awesome. Yeah, and Galia, it's totally normal to feel really afraid of telling your story when the goal, however, it might be unconscious, but it is often our unconscious goal, is to be the most impressive person that has ever graced the earth. As far as
well, that sounds a little much. I don't know that that's my goal, but
sure.
The telling part scares me because I recently found out that I'm scared of anything that might sound like self-promotion.
Yeah. So that's, again, a fear of being rejected, right? It's a fear of being criticized or thought of or misunderstood as a person who is braggadocious or self-centered or whatever, right?
That checks out.
Yeah. So again, it's often like we all have the same fear, right? And it's rejection, humiliation, survival, or lack of survival. And so again, like, there's a lot of sort of ways that manifest, but we can always usually just like track it back to one of those three things. It's helpful to do that also, because it's like, oh, like, of course I'm afraid of being humiliated. Of course we're afraid of being misunderstood. Like, of course we just want connection. That's like so awesome. And the way that we're going to achieve that is by sharing ourselves, not hiding. Right. So it's just a little bit of think of it as and we get so deep into this in the programs. But it's some software that's just kind of buggy, right? Like, at one point, hiding or not bragging was probably the way that you ensured approval, right? There's probably someone in your life who criticized you or whatever for like don't brag, like shitheads brag. And so that's a program that got written that's still running today. And like all software, like, it just keeps running with all its bugs until we upgrade it on purpose, right? So this is part of your software upgrade, is taking that old program and being like, oh, actually, today, the program that achieves connection is sharing my story. And like, yeah, I don't know, maybe brag a little. Oh, God. Or don't, right? Or say, wow, I feel really nervous about sounding like I'm bragging, but I really want to share myself with you. Dynamite, right? Really, really beautiful, powerful vulnerability. So I love all of this: assessing fit, understanding yourself and what others, helping others understand you, understanding having people think of you for future opportunities. I love all of this. Open doors, creating an impression, all of this gets at this long game, right? You'll notice that none of these very thoughtful answers have anything to do with securing certainty of a job offer today, right now, in this moment, right? And so another way to put this is that the goal, especially if you're if you're in the process of securing revenue, which theoretically we want to be doing sooner rather than later, probably. We don't want to be spend, the rest of our lives opportunity searching for clients, customers, roles. So it behooves us to eliminate poor fit roles as quickly as possible. I figure that about 95% of roles will be wrong for you. When we are this specific, this clear, and this empowered by what we want, it's just math. Yeah, you're ruling out a lot of jobs. That's actually a feature, not a bug, guys, right? Again, we're trying to stand out so that those 5% comes to us. We magnetize that needle out of the haystack. So again, keep in mind, 19 out of 20 jobs, I don't know, roughly, you'll hear a no from that you could either take as a sign that you suck or got rejected, or a sign that oh, thank goodness, we really want, I'm so glad that we had that conversation that I didn't end up working there. So again, easier said than done as a mindset. But if you can really take charge of this story and use it in service of eliminating these roles quickly at the beginning, before you get anywhere near an interview, this doesn't mean that you're going to be interviewing for 20 jobs and hearing 19 rejections after all that invested time. Ideally, you're interviewing for 2 and you get 1. Right? So again, very efficient process. We love efficiency in FEMS. It is a huge deal. We own our story and we just plow through all the hay that doesn't contain our needle, and we get right to the juicy opportunity, consulting clients, new roles, whatever it is, that really matches our story, or the shape of our puzzle piece. Okay, let me just check the chat real quick. Yeah, so Sarah, this was another thing that I didn't get into today. Minor rant. The market is a story. It serves all of us to just put it out of our minds. Anytime that I hear people complaining about how the market is so tough, what that does is it creates this vortex of people breathing that air of the job market is so tough. And all I can recommend to my clients is that people get out of that vortex. If you hang out with people who are market's never been better for me, you can imagine what that vortex feels like and what the results that those people get. So again, has the job market shifted somewhat in ways that are hard to predict and optimize for? Yeah, probably. But there has never been a better time for a good job search strategy. There's never been a worse time for a poor job search strategy, but it's always been kind of crappy for a poor job search strategy, right? The poor job search strategies being blasting your resume to a zillion companies blind. Because again, you're going for most generic version of you to most generic version of the job. It's just you're going to get a zillion false negatives. It's just not that efficient, right? So it's always been a bad time to use that strategy. If we're owning our story and creating opportunities for the maximum humanity at every node, every milestone in the job search process, people are getting jobs left and right. Try me. All right. So be T-shaped, sure, maybe. Tell your story. Don't try to use templates that make you more generic. That's it. All right. Okay, your stitch. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. The stitch, the story plus pitch, really, really simple. 3 components. Your strengths, 1 or 2, guys. Again, no one's good at everything. Name the skills that are just so natural for you that it would just be dumb to not get paid for them. That's what we're looking for, because we have things we have number 2, which is all about your loves, the things you really love doing. It's just how it would be such a miss to not have this on your calendar, right? Even if you're not a master at it and never will be, user research or design thinking exercises. I'm never going to be a master at that stuff, but oh gosh, I wanted a good design partner, right? And I want to sit in on those meetings. That's how I want to spend my time. If I can't do that, then probably not a good fit for me. And then part 3, the skills you want to develop next. And what this does is by design, eliminates the situation where you are being interviewed for a role that you don't have the skills to get, right? You're not asked questions about things you don't have experience doing. The interview can then be easy, right? Imagine that. So these are the three components. Some examples. This is from an actual client of mine. His strengths: I excel at hiring high performers and quantitative analysis. Those are his two main strengths. Tons of stories that he could share in interviews about him excelling at those things. I love doing market and user research. So that's kind of his, like, just passion projects where he's not a master of it, but loves doing it. And he's looking for support in developing his product strategy and storytelling abilities. I think another one was that he wanted to get opportunities to own the P&L, right? So just another, again, corporate product specific one for those of you looking for that. See if you can tell who this stitch belongs to. So I excel at guiding people through paralyzing emotional states, helping them break down their vision into achievable goals. I love writing and teaching with my unique voice, and I want to learn more about the sociology of trauma and how it impacts organizational dynamics. Hey, nice to meet you. That's my stitch. So again, this is usually told in the context of sharing what I do with somebody, right? Like the kind of work that I do, or when I'm trying to sort of give clients or potential clients an idea of what my focus is. Like, no, I'm not going to review your resume, guys. That's not what I do. This is what I do. So glad you found that out before you hired me to review your resume, right? So again, there's so much flexibility here. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. Just as to review this is the components of your stitch. These are the words to avoid. These are the words to use. And then I'm going to take volunteers to wordsmith it if you feel stuck or still don't know how to make your story concise. Again, this is a incomplete list of words to use, obviously, but can be a little bit of a inspo for a lot of folks. Write your stitch. All right. Hey, Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes. I was going to play a song, but then I realized, like, music sounds so terrible over Zoom speakers. So we're just going to sit in silence. Sorry if I started your Siri timer. I'm going to get up and stretch. Everyone can feel free to do that as well. Just take the next 30 seconds or so to finish up. Oh, and yes, Phil says, sorry, the strengths and skills I use interchangeably. Sorry, that was unclear. All right. Now let's just go ahead and have someone speak up if you want to workshop and wordsmith this together. We did this, it's funny, I did this on our WhatsApp thread for the group program, for everyone in the group, and just having my workshopping with an individual in the group chat, people could see, I could see the unfolding of the feedback, and it was really, really valuable for everyone. So I hope everyone will stick around.
I can go.
Yeah, so go ahead. Sorry, Filza, go ahead.
Sure. So I can go. So I was a little bit confused about strengths and skills. So curious what your thoughts are there. So my strengths, I would say, are bringing teams together. So like across multiple groups, and then also just getting things done. So I think opposite to you is like, I can finish things off, I can plan things out, and I can like get them done. And then also just strategic planning in general. So like if there's like the big high level company tasks, like breaking it down, measurable goals, setting it out, getting everyone aligned to get it done. And then living company values, I guess, would be a big one. Our company is very big on our values. So big on that one: transparency, iteration, results. And then what do I want to learn next would be P&L management, and then also influencing leadership.
Awesome. So I just realized that I had just a typo on this slide, like a dum-dum. I actually meant number 2 is your love. So the 3 components are, sorry about that. So okay. I think we can
Yeah.
parlay it. So what would the strengths, I think, are to just run that by me one more time, because I want to just pull the words.
Yep. Strengths would be bringing teams together and getting things done. And then also strategic planning. So taking like company vision, company, yearly goals, and breaking those down into measurable like steps and actually delivering them. And then like company values. So like iteration, results is a big one for me in terms of like strengths, but making sure that I'm focused on actual measurable goals. And then what do I want to learn next would be P&L management and influencing leadership.
Awesome. Influencing, or P&L, influencing leadership. I'll copy paste it, guys. Influence leadership and P&L. Cool. So one thing about being living company values. So again, this kind of was one other thing where it's like, oh God, well, I'm sure not going to hire people who don't live company values. Geez. I think that the elevated version of this, just in terms of the word choice, is actually better captured by being a culture carrier. Because this is not just living the company's values, like you're infusing your values into the situation. Like there's a bunch of different interpretation of transparency, in some ways that's almost table stakes for a company. It's like, what is like people running around like obfuscating important information? What's going on? So this is really about you deciding what the values are and carrying that forward in your actions and your leadership, right? And like setting a model that other people can follow tangibly. Right. So I love the words of being a culture carrier. Oh, thanks for copy pasting that, by the way. I just totally forgot. So I think the main thing to focus on here, to dig into, is the idea of bringing teams together and getting things done. So when you basically, this is one of those things that we want to show rather than tell. It's kind of like collaboration, cross-functional collaboration, execution that kind of like falls under that category. So we want to be telling a story of, great, you collaborated and executed, but it turns out it was totally towards something completely useless. Like that's not the story we want to tell, right? So we actually want to be selecting a story or having a story in mind that when someone's like, oh, well, tell me an example of a time you did that, it's a badass story of impact. So again, this is kind of taking letting the strengths be the seeds where you anticipate getting asked questions about how you excel at those things specifically, like to tell a story of a time that happened. So I'm curious, like when you think about like a highlight of this, what impact did it drive? Like how did you measure that it was collaboration towards a really beneficial end?
I think for us, it's like, I think it was like not measurable, which is why I struggle with it. But like
a lot of times it feels that way.
Yeah. So when I joined, like everyone separately did their quarterly planning. Like there was just so many different groups within our org that did all these quarterly plannings. So I was the one to like set up meetings with each of the individual groups to say, what are you working on? Here's what our team is working on. And then doing a process of sharing back, like, this is what our plan is for this quarter. So then they could plan accordingly, and then we could plan accordingly of like, this is what our team is to expect. So I think in that way, I reduced like the fire drills for our team. And then also created just expectations for the other teams of like, hey, we told you in advance, like, we're busy XYZ months, so now this thing won't get done. So just having that clarity of communication.
So here's how you are, again, kind of the concise version of the showing rather than telling.
Yeah.
You instituted a quarterly planning process. And that's sort of the, leading and developing and leading best practices planning, processes,
Mhm.
right, and strategic planning processes. And what that did was support the company in doing focused work towards a $20 million goal next year. And by the way, everyone should know what their company's revenue targets are. Often it is obfuscated or not shared, at least in my startups it was back in my day. It leads to just total chaos. So I'm curious, do you have a revenue target? Just, again, make it like the company revenue target, because your quarterly planning process that brought together all these teams, that made that goal possible.
Right.
If they didn't have one before, they were not going to hit that goal, obviously, right? Because everyone would just be rolling in different directions. That's what happens. So can you name the figure?
I don't off the top of my head, but yeah, I could look at that.
Go get it. Because
Yeah.
that's, again, this is where it's like, yeah, like, was it just you? Absolutely not. Could they have done it without you? Not as far as we know.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah. So developing and instituting quarterly planning processes. So this is really about like helping companies mature. It's kind of the umbrella that we're talking about. You'll be a great fit at companies that are looking to grow up, right? And maybe graduate from just kind of startup operations to like serious strategic discipline. It sounds like you really love like data analysis too. So quantitative and qualitative data analysis are things that you were they loves or skills? Like, do you have these things you really enjoy, or do you have several like badass stories of achieving those things?
I think I have some stories that would apply to those. I think it's more like understanding the data and like actually creating plans to like use that data, not just being like X happened, cool, but it's like actually like responding and reacting to that data.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's again, like, the analysis is useless unless it's acted upon, right? Unless it's made available. So again, just having some of those stories handy, just again, highlighting this thing. So you're noticing, guys, the kind of like the structure, if you can have a mental model for this. We've got like the elevator pitch version of our story, which is just the quick words that comprise the shape of our puzzle piece, right? It gives people just this quick, like 5-second view, high level view of what your shape is. And then we dig into like how you did it, and all of your color, all of your personality, all of your magic really has a chance to come through in ideally conversations. This is why, again, in Fearless Times, we really don't use resumes. Because it's just, again, like, it's just a missed opportunity to show your magic. Awesome. Feeling good about that. So yeah, being a culture carrier, influencing leadership and P&L, that's really clear. Like, so I see this as being like, you're looking for upward mobility.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like how I would sum that up. And so, yeah, you want a lot of opportunities to learn from and grow with and influence leadership, and ultimately have opportunities to manage a P&L. So
if you didn't know what you wanted next, say you're just like, I'm trying to figure out and I'm open to, how would you phrase that? Or do you pick something and just say?
So I think this is where this strategy fits into kind of like my bigger framework for everything that we do in kind of surfacing new opportunities. You wouldn't be interviewing, and you wouldn't be having a focus in your conversations of, hey, I'm looking for a new role or a new opportunity. Because you're just not ready. Like, you just don't know. So you couldn't ask for people's help in surfacing those good roles for you. People would just be kind of like, oh, I don't know, we'll throw anything. And like half the time it'll be not that helpful, right? So what we want to do instead is shift our focus away from kind of the presumption that you're seeking opportunities. And instead, you're doing informational interviews, you're looking to meet people with certain expertise. Cause like, again, like maybe you're interested in coaching. I don't know, let's go talk to some and see if that actually sounds fun. Like, I think I had a moment where I was like, maybe HR is my thing. Like get to deal with people and like work in tech. And oh my God, thank God, I had 2 conversations and I was like, whoa, nope. Right. So again, like this is where we can wayfind in a really proactive community building sort of way. So yeah, just shifting that focus, kind of the stitch is something that you deliver as a package in the broader kind of wrapper of what you're talking to people, why you're talking to people, right? A lot of times our focus is finding a new role. Sometimes it's just meeting people that would be interesting to talk to based on what you're looking to learn more about. Cool. So we're right at the hour, guys. So obviously I've taken all of your time that I'm entitled to, not even entitled, you've gifted to me. I have a few more minutes to stick around. I'm going to go have a cocktail in the sun because it's so gorgeous outside. That's my plan for the afternoon. But that can wait because I am so grateful to have you here. If anyone wants to raise their hand, I'll keep the recording going. So if you have to go now, you'll get the recording. Anyone else want to wordsmith? AJ, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Should I plop something in the chat or?
Yeah, go ahead. Do that. That's even easier.
All right. I'm going to plop this in the chat. There you go. So strengths, most companies do data wrong. They just do it wrong. It's a part of support function. It should not be. What I do is I take data and data science along with AI and machine learning capabilities, build it into a true P&L business. So just like any other business function, you get a budget, your models you can prove have a certain ROI and drive a certain amount of revenue or cost, hard savings, not soft savings. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. I've done it at 2 or 3 large companies. I've done it at fintechs.
Cool. Amazing. And then I think of other companies like Peloton or that's the one that really comes to mind, right? I've had a couple clients that did that were on the data team there. And obviously like their data is a whole product, like it's an internal and external product. So that's really powerful. Cool.
And if my skills are in this, function in kind of the data science and analytics function, I can go high to low. I've been a mathematician. I've been an army of one at a startup. I've been a management consultant. So I can, pitch and evangelize to senior leadership as well as, get into the code, help build models, help give feedback, debug sometimes, anything in between.
Yep.
And I guess what I want to learn is like, I'm not in a good place right now. So just like just like continue and like get back into, I've been out of work for a year. It's been really stressful.
A lot of people here can relate, I'm sure. And yeah, we're here for you. I'm here for you. And again, like this is a big part of your identity. You sound like a deeply creative person. And in some ways, not having this opportunity as part of your routine to go into work every day and create is devastating. So of course it's really tender.
Yes.
So let's see. I love the story of your skills, right? So this is something, and I'm assuming that because you're focusing on it on your skill, it's something that you'd be down to like do your next act and have that be a key part of it. Is that something that you're like, would you agree?
I'm actually pretty desperate right now. I will take pretty much anything.
Yeah. Well, so I hear that the part of you definitely is, but I think there is an even more profound central part of you that actually has a really strong opinion about what she wants to do. Right. Wants to spend her time. So yes, I think that there is the way that I think about when there's physical realities like needing to pay rent that are, get in the way of us taking our sweet time and, tracking down the absolute perfect fit. Most of us can't afford to do that. That would be nice if we all could, but it's just not the reality. And so in that case, we shift our focus while still having the story that is deeply aligned about what ultimately we are going to end up doing. There's a thing called the lily pad job, right? It's something where there's things that we're either willing to compromise on because it doesn't crush our soul to do, or it's a thing that doesn't really like supercharge our growth, right? As in the way that we anticipate being able to do, but it is deeply aligned insofar as that it allows us to pay the rent or have a routine or go out into the world and collaborate, whatever it is that is nourishing. All those things are nourishing, by the way, so that we can buy us time to actually, find the final thing. So I hear I hear that there is a big experience of desperation, and it is so fucking real and so fucking hard, and I've been there. Again, like I've been through it all. It was really a dark period of my life, and my community was like my absolute, I don't know what I would have done without an amazing community behind me. So it is deeply, deeply hard.
And
But-
it's kind of like self-reinforcing, because the more desperate you feel and when you're not in a good place, you can't present yourself in the best light. So even when I got an interview, I know I didn't kill it. I kind of just barely,
Yeah. So there is a deeper question here about how survival mode is, if there's a version of you that is able to just like emanate this. Again, there's a real science behind it as well as like woo-woo stuff. Like you're just emanating abundance and excitement and joy and connection and openness. And if that part of you is kind of under some layers of distress, survival mode, depression, anxiety, all of that, yeah, it just doesn't shine, right? So in that case, first things first, again, this number 3, I think for your stitch, we're traditionally thinking about the stitch, we want to replace that with something that you're excited to learn about, right? So again, actually, this might be, if that is actually something that you want to learn about in the way that you're just really passionate about the subject matter, then I think that's a great number 3. But if you're really sort of just like carving out, saying that this is a thing I need support on, I need help from this right now, it's probably not from employers that you're going to find this. Right? They're not going to be the one to meet your need. So I'm curious, like, given that I think your objective, your focus is finding a lily pad job, right? That's probably would be most supportive of you right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yep, now I can.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Just anything to kind of, get us off take the financial pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So I think data product management is probably again, like it doesn't necessarily have to be a role where you are transforming a business into like having data be part of the P&L. Yes. It could be an internal product that, that is not necessarily a profit center, right?
Yeah, I've actually just recently landed like a temp job, and I was working with a recruiter who one of the issues I was running into is that I was getting rejected for all applications for IC roles. So anything that's not like a leadership position, I was just flat out, I wasn't even getting the interview. So after working with that recruiter, I pretty much just, quote unquote, he put it as dumbed down my resume. Taking like achievements that I did maybe 10 years ago and trying to present them as like things I did recently. And then just in the interviews, like for lack of a better description, just lie your face off. So that's what I did. And that's how I got the temp offer. Yeah. I don't feel good about it, but that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah. So again, like eyes forward, right? I'm so glad that you got a temp offer that's going to stabilize at least certain parts of your life for now, so that you can continue and focus on the big picture. I agree that, again, like the energy of lying and the results that it gets you don't want what's on the other side of a lie. You just don't. Right? Like you don't want, again, if our goal is to eliminate all the roles that we really would be unhappy at, lying is directly contrary to that effort, right? We will end up with a bunch of stuff that we don't want coming through the pipe. So I think the data product management, and again, like how long, I guess, well, let's see, back up. So this is a little bit less about the stitch so much as it is about your overarching strategy, right?
Right.
So I think that there's a just a, you know, to be maximally supportive of where you're at, I'll call it a couple things. One is that first order of business is to understand what your runway is, because girl, if you've got the money to pay rent for a little while, like you've got the lily pad job, like check mark, we're good, right? And again, you don't have to share anything about your story you don't want to. Like for all they know, like you're vacationing in Bali for, you know, your sabbatical for 2 years, like while you find the perfect next job. Like that's a badass story.
I have a pretty good out because I have really young kids, so I just said I took time at home with kids.
Awesome. And it's amazing that you're able to do that actually, right? Like, let's look at the truth, which is that you were able to do that. And the sky didn't fall. It's not perfect, but still you were able to do that. And so at that point, we're then looking at like adopting a somewhat better strategy than the one that has not been working up until this point, right? So again, I work with lots of folks who have been sort of employing the strategy that maybe worked when we were younger, like applying to a zillion jobs, sending resumes all over the place. At this stage of seniority, and everyone here is somewhat, you know, further along in their career, right? We operate through our community, through our network, if you will. I'm rebranding it as community because that's way more accurate functionally. And I'll send out a guide to everyone for the Fearless Femmes job search guide of like how we do it protocol wise, like step by step, play by play. And we talk about the stitch here. And what you're going to be doing is starting by sharing your stitch with your friends. And so my question for you, AJ, because I think this is going to be really supportive in terms of like getting you back connected with a body that is open and glitter, right? Like getting back in touch with your glitter. Is there a topic that you have been really excited about lately?
Um,
Hard to answer if you're burned out, trust me.
Yeah, quite honestly, not too much. I recently came across an app that I was super excited about. I'm like trying to connect with the founder. It's actually, if anybody here knows Blueberry, it's a like a pediatric telehealth app. And it was just the most seamless, like perfect product market fit, like new health tech that I've seen in a long time. So I'm super, but they have a terrible onboarding process that could be really improved with like 1 or 2 tweaks.
And so what I want you to practice, and part of this is, again, it's a part of a pleasure practice, which is, again, a whole like sermon on its own. But something that you can try to get in touch with is just talking to friends. And we're talking like, dude, like spend a week doing this. This is not some interminable process that takes forever. Like spend a week talking to friends, sharing, like just getting lost in what you loved about that app. And just practice. Maybe they don't give a shit. Like, again, they're not in product, who cares? Like, but they love you, right? Get that feedback loop going where you are sharing part of yourself and getting positive feedback. Someone's listening to you and you're having the physiological experience, this patterning in your body of joy, talking about something work-related. Like, it will transform everything so much faster than you think it will. And then I think that it's time to shift strategies into, and again, I make this freely available to everyone, shift strategies into a more network-based job opportunity discovery process. Because yeah, the ones that you've been getting, I don't think that it's because you're not qualified. You have an awesome story. You've just been surfacing and interviewing for roles that are a bad fit for you. And then unfortunately, I think got some misguided advice about like how to improve that situation, which was to become more generic and more broad rather than less generic and more precise. Right. So again, like this is the status quo. This is why people work with me, is because it is a completely different game. We just stop playing the old game and the new game is way more fun. I promise. So in some ways I want to welcome you to the next phase. It's going to be way better from here on out. Beautiful. And so the other bit about your loves, I would say the other goal, maybe that I'll offer for the stitch, in addition to like eliminating roles that are a poor fit for you, it's to help the person you're talking to. Because again, more broadly, this is within a context of networking, right? You're going to ask the person you're sharing the stitch with to introduce you to somebody. Again, I have a whole other workshop for this, but ultimately that's you want the goal of your stitch to also be to make it really easy for the person that you're talking to think of a person that you should definitely meet, right? So when we say things like, oh, I can go from high to low from strategy to the lowest component of code, it's not that like it's a bad story, and it also may be true. It unfortunately just clouds my mind with everyone I know. It's like, oh, well, I know a gazillion people who are at the, you know, the line of code level and a gazillion people who are at the strategic level. I can't think of a name. But if you're really specific about the specific thing that you love most, again, out of all of our loves, we're naming one or two, like which is the thing that you absolutely fucking love about you know, about the strategy aspect. What do you love doing? Then I'll be like, oh my God, I know exactly who the guy who I know loves strategy as much as this chick is Daryl. And you should totally meet him. Like that's how that goes, right? So we kind of you can think of it just again from a human psychology level. There's a free recall problem when we go so broad. So again, the other benefit of specificity is that it helps people think of a name, because there's like one guy they know rather than the whole swath of people in the network. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Awesome. So here's the thing. So I do have to run now. We're 15 minutes over. I love this, but I am getting a little bit tired vocally and cognitively after almost 2 hours, and I want to be sharp for everybody. So here's what I recommend. Obviously, this is a really, really powerful topic, a really powerful kind of opportunity for coaching. Feel free to email me your stitch as it is, and I'll happily give feedback and kind of just do it through typing, maybe a few voice notes if you're into that. And then also, of course, you'll have an opportunity to do this later, so don't freak out if you miss this link. But if this sounds awesome, I did tell you that you know, at the end, if you wanted more help, I'd tell you how to get it. This is what we do in Fearless Femmes all the time. It's amazing. We do it from all these different angles, starting from all these different kind of lenses of physiology, of community building, of compassion, values, passion about social justice, like making the workplace better for everyone, creativity, all of this. So whether you're looking for a new role in the corporate world, or you're kind of like, wow, damn, I don't think I want to go back there, it might be good for us to have a conversation. So you can just book time on my Calendly if my programs you think might be of interest to you. I'll send you like the program description if you sign up for a call. But here is the link to book, and there's a little questionnaire to give me some context. But yes, please share your LinkedIn. If you share here, I'll you know, give everyone a chance to click and open a bunch of tabs and add each other, and I'll look at the recording and add everyone as well. I pop off on LinkedIn these days, so please feel free to add me there as well. I'm just Becca Camp. Fabulous. Oh my gosh, I'm just seeing how many people we have here at the end. Oh my God, like we had like 70 people join today. That was awesome. Clearly a really timely topic. All right, guys, amazing. Have a great rest of your week. It's Friday Junior after all. I'll leave the recording going or I'll leave the call going so people can share links. But this was, again, like, this is me absolutely living my best life out here. Like, I can't believe this is my job. And you all just make it such an absolute joy. So thank you for being part of it and being the recipient of my self-expression and teaching. And I hope it was a fun time and a beneficial one. Please reach out. I'm like the most chill human ever, and I love meeting people. So I'm happy to talk, even if the program isn't quite right for you right now. I'm here for you, and you're part of my extended community, and I love that. And you. All right, everyone. I'll leave the call going for now, but appreciate you all.